If the International Phonetic Alphabet has symbols and sounds you haven't mastered yet, it's time for IPA and IPAs with Molly.
Hi everybody, welcome to IPA and IPAs, the unfussy show about the International Phonetic Alphabet and beer. I'm Molly from Molly Does Dialects, and tonight we're going to talk about the diacritic for aspirated and when you use aspiration. But first, what am I drinking? Tonight, from Manhattan Project Beer Company in Dallas, Texas, I am drinking the Half-Life Hazy IPA. I really love their cans. They're very simple. The line artwork always makes me happy. And I cheated a little bit on this one. I looked it up. So I am going to be looking for citrus at the beginning, and then towards the middle, some stone fruit and pine. I don't know if I've ever experienced stone fruit in an IPA before, but we shall see. And the can says this pairs well with lemon, sun, and fries. I like all of those things, especially fries. All right, it's very yellow, kind of straw color. Let me smell. Definitely lemony. I guess that's the citrus. Cheers, everybody. You know, I don't know if it's because I read the description and it's telling me that there's stone fruit in it, but there's a sweetness in the middle that, because I've been told it's stone fruit, the sweetness in the middle to me really does kind of taste like a peach. Yeah, you definitely get citrus on the front. And I think maybe the pine that I'm supposed to be tasting is what comes across to me as bitter. It does end pretty bitter. It's not really, really strong, but it's a little stronger than I tend to like. This is pretty good. If you like IPAs, you'll probably like it. If you don't like IPAs, this one's probably not for you, but you never know. So if you want to try it, go ahead. If not, always up to you. Cheers. So tonight we're going to talk about aspiration. And aspiration, at its most simple, is a brief puff of air that can follow plosives. So the puff is the pressure that you build up in your mouth while you're forming the plosive. And most of the time with aspiration, we're going to be talking about voiceless plosives. So our voiceless plosives, one more time, P, P, K, T. Those are voiceless plosives. One place that you really hear aspiration in English, you hear it a lot with voiceless plosives occurring at the beginning of the word or the beginning of the stressed syllable. So we are going to talk about that tonight with the word pot. And I just did an example of aspiration. I said pot, right? That puff of air, pot. And if you're having trouble telling whether you're doing it or not, put your finger in front of your mouth. Pot, pot. Can you feel the puff of air? Or you could try it with a candle. That would be fancier and probably more accurate. So let's transcribe the word pot. Got our bracket. We've got our p. Ah. For me, that's that sound. Ah. T. Pot. Now, because p is a voiceless plosive occurring at the beginning of the word, it's going to be aspirated, and it tracks for me with the finger test. Pot, pot. So how you mark that is you put a little H above it. H represents that aspiration, that puff of air, pot. So, we know that pot, the p is aspirated, pot. Let's test it with the word spot. Because here's the thing. When the voiceless plosive is at the beginning of the word or the stressed syllable, pot, pot, that's where you get the aspiration, the puff of air. But when there's something that comes before it, in this case the s comes before the p for spot, it doesn't have the same aspiration. So let's transcribe that. We have s, ah, t. And because p is not the first sound in the word, we're not going to aspirate it. Try that with me. Pot, spot, pot, spot. For me, pot is definitely aspirated and spot is definitely not aspirated. It could be different for you, but in general, Americans tend to use a lot of aspiration. So we've talked about aspiration at the beginning of a word, right? Pot, spot, pot. Not on spot, yes on pot. Now let's chat about it at the end of a word. Because the way that we put plosives at the ends of words also can be aspirated, but they can also be not aspirated, and we'll talk a little more about that. Let's start with transcribing the word cat, right? So first of all, we start with a k. And a k is a voiceless plosive, and it's going into a vowel sound, and it's the first sound in the word. So it's probably aspirated. I bet you got that right. So we need to put our small h. Ah. Ah. T. Cat. Now, if I say cat, then I would be aspirating the final t, right? So I could say cat, cat. I don't tend to do that. What I tend to do is say cat, cat. So I tend to not aspirate the final t, and I tend to put on a no audible release. Just to be honest, I don't say cat, I say cat, cat. Fantastic. Let's try it with the word bad, because we've been talking about voiceless plosives, but let's talk about voiced plosives for a second. Bad. Let's transcribe it. We have a b. Bad, bad. I don't aspirate that one. I don't aspirate the b. Ah. Same vowel as cat. D. Oof. Bad. So, if I wanted to say bad, bad, d, bad, is that aspirated? It's not, right? It really works for voiceless plosives, but we tried a voiced plosive just to see, and it really doesn't work. So, my recommendation is if you're going to use aspiration, put it on the voiceless plosive. If it's the first sound of the word or the first sound of the stressed syllable, like the word potato, potato, that middle t, potato, that's aspirated. Or if you have a voiceless plosive at the end of the word and you explode the sound, cat, t. Aspiration. Thank you so much for joining me tonight on IPA and IPAs. I hope you had fun. I hope you learned something. If you have any questions about any of this or suggestions, put them in the comments below. I love to hear them. If you'd like, you can subscribe to me here on YouTube. You can also follow me at mollydoesdialects on Instagram for some fun behind-the-scenes content. Until next week. Cheers, everybody.
You can never fail with the fresh pale ale and Molly.
I'm writing the word cat on the board, and I almost wrote it with a K and not a C. Phonetics and spelling are not the same. Woo!